Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Hello, everybody. This is Troy with the Pastured Pig Podcast. Glad everyone took the time to listen to another episode today. I've got another great interview looking forward to here with a farm out of New York. It's something that resonates with me because Greg tells a story of reclaiming an old abandoned farm. I think his farm was abandoned for almost 40 years, so it's neat to hear somebody else having to take on that task. I think you'll enjoy his story here. As far as updates go here on the farm, we have our new pigs on farm now. At the point of me recording this intro, we've had our new herd that we got from Six Oaks Farms there with David Crafton down in South Carolina. You've heard him on the podcast multiple times. But we got our delivery on Friday of last week, and 15 various size hogs. They're all recently weaned, all good-looking hogs, and excited to see how they do here on the property. So we'll keep everyone posted as we go forward with that and give updates as we go along. Well, I'm going to jump right into the interview, and I'll catch you all on the backside. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast. I have another great interview teed up tonight. This evening, I'm talking with Greg Putney from the Rise and Swine Farm in Holland, New York. So welcome, Greg.
Welcome. Hey, Troy. Thanks for having me. Did
I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yep. Yes, you did.
Very good. Okay. So Rise and Swine Farm, I love that. That's great. I love the play on words there. So how did you come across that? Is that some clever story behind that?
Not really. We started we kind of started just raising pigs, and my aunt actually works for a big advertising place, and she came up with the name, so we've just kind of attached on it and ran with it ever since.
All right, good deal. Well, tell us, Greg, give us kind of a 40,000-foot elevation discussion of your farm setup there, just kind of what you've got going on, kind of the lay of the land.
All right, well, our entire farm consists of about 120 acres. We own 21, and we lease the rest from an adjacent farm. And it's been an abandoned farm probably about 35 or 40 years. So there has been no fencing, no infrastructure, no roadways. That's essentially all been gone. So we've been taking care of that, getting everything back up, fencing, and we put a big water line system in this year for a gravity water system. And we've slowly been running the animals over the land, reclaiming it, and slowly and surely we're getting it back to where we are going to have it pretty good this year.
Yeah, interesting. So actually, my property was an abandoned property. So in that time that it laid fallow, was anybody doing anything? Was anybody cutting hay, or were you actually seeing pasture grow back up?
Nope, it was all grown back up. It was pretty much red brush in the main pasture. If you take like a 90-acre block, half of it was already back into young woods, and then the other half was, at one point, it was a hay field, and that was all back into the red brush. So
wow.
That was our first order of business, was to put the perimeter fence around that field and start reclaiming that. And then this last summer, we've actually run the pigs through the woods pretty hard, and we've gotten that back pretty close to where we like to see it. So
very good. So you're using, in the past, you used your pigs to do that, or did you have to bring in some equipment to get something started?
We did as much as we could with the animals. Some of the stuff was just too big, so we did end up bringing some equipment in. Maybe out of the 45 acres, we probably had equipment on probably 2 acres of it, just to get some of the bigger stuff down. But in the woods, we've cleaned out a lot of the underbrush, and then most of the woods right now is cherry trees. So, and the cherry and apple. So we finished our pigs up in the apple orchard. There's an abandoned apple orchard that's highest up on the hill, on the highest point of the property. It's roughly about a 5-acre apple orchard that's up there. So come November, October, we take and run our pigs up through there, let them finish on apples, and then they're off to freezer camp after that.
Yeah, wow, what a great way to finish. Yeah, I'm sure they hate
Yeah,
that too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cuts the feed bill down, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so so you said you started with pigs there, but you're not solely doing pigs on Rising Swine, correct?
No, 3 years ago, when we ended up leasing this other farm, we ended up bringing beefers on, and we did a bunch of research. I took about a year looking into some breeds and stuff like that, just for our climate, and we ended up deciding to start with Scottish Highlands, particularly more or less because they are a less picky eater. They're more of a browser. I guess they're kind of considered like the goats of the cow world.
Yeah.
So we brought them on, and we've had them for 3 years. We do daily pasture moves every day. They're rotating through the pasture, and this last summer we've seen just huge improvements in the just the quality of the forage, and the quantity of the forage is really, the third year it's really taken off. So
Wow. Yeah.
we're actually gonna kind of cut back on the Scottish Highlands now that the forage has come up, and we're actually bringing back in some black baldies. We got some Herefords that are gonna be coming in this year, so we're gonna start transitioning slowly over to more traditional beef cows.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to keep from going down that rabbit trail there because I'd love to talk about Highlanders. We've been looking at adding those to our farm
yeah,
as well. But that's interesting. I love the attitude and the strategy there of utilizing the proper animal to get you to a certain point. So the Highlander has been kind of the pioneer there, clearing out the land, clearing out some of the underbrush, and like you said, you're transitioning now to a more traditional
yeah,
ruminant that can handle now this good pasture. I love that. It's much better than
yeah.
spraying or equipment and all that type of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it's very Salatin style, I guess you like to say, where we haven't tilled anything, we haven't, plowed anything or seeded or anything in the main pasture. Um, we've actually got pictures from the lady that we leased the property from back in the 1920s, and there's actually in the background you can see all the fields, and you can see, I mean, it was just all open, hay fields back then at that time.
Mm.
And I mean, you can see the quality of the forage. I mean, you only see the top half of the cows,
Yeah.
So the seed bank is there and everything is there. It just needed to get restarted, and that's really what we were going for with bringing these animals on.
Oh wow. So was that farm being in that part of New York? Was that a dairy farm or was that just beef?
Yes, back then it was a dairy and it was a horse farm.
Hmm.
So
Oh.
they had both, but the cows in the picture are, Holsteins. So they were milking at one point. The original barn is still there. The original house is still there.
Wow.
And we just ended up actually, when you take the pictures from where those pictures were taken, you can actually see our fence lines that we put up were actually almost in the identical spots as what they had them back then.
Yeah.
And we had, it just kind of went with the lay of the land, how we thought everything would roll, and it ended up being almost an identical picture, 100 years later. So,
Yeah. That's amazing. So was that the reason why you started with pigs, just because of the condition of the farm? You thought this was the most logical animal to start with?
actually, with the pigs, my daughter was born, and we decided that we were done buying store meat. So that's what actually ended up getting us started in raising pigs, and we started with two, and then in typical gateway, everybody else finds out you're raising it, and then they want one, and then next thing you know, it's almost a full-time business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've been growing right along just via kind of word of mouth, and it's been a good thing that people get the opportunity to come over the farm. We have multiple farm tours during the year, so we bring groups of about 30 or 40 people in every time, and we walk out and through the farm. There's a spot where it hasn't been touched. We kind of left it, and just to show the comparison, and you can see really what rotating the animals, and just such a difference you can make in just 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. That's great to see that progress made. So, Greg, tell me a little bit about your experience. Is this something new to you? Are you trained in farming? Is this something you've got a history in, or did you just decide to take it on?
I grew up I was on a farm until I was about 4 or 5 years old, and then we moved into a subdivision, and we moved back out to the country when we got married, and this will be our 10th year doing this with the pigs.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, we've slowly added on. We do pastured meat birds and the beef now. So we have a little bit of a variety, but we moved back out here. I mean, my family's all had farms. My my grandfather's brother owns a big farm. They run about 300 Angus, more traditional style farm. And we just wanted to do something a little different.
Yeah.
So we came back out here and we've grown, and we got the good reputation and the good quality products, and we're headed down the right path.
So, what kind of research or time did you put into this? Again, having a family that's been experienced, but it sounds like they were kind of more in traditional type ag.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration, or what was your research source there?
Well, I read a lot of Joel Salatin's
Hmm.
books. I went down to one of Jordan Green's classes down there in Virginia, and we went through his Farrow to Finish school, and just to really kind of upscale our pig program, and our farrowing and out on pasture and stuff like that. So you kind of mimicry is, I guess you could say flattering, I guess, because we really kind of we go to all these different farms and even local farms up here, and we just keep pulling bits and pieces of what we see that works, and we bring it back here and put it on ours, and kind of really, make the whole system flow a little bit better. So
Yeah. Wow.
there's a lot of reading books and a lot of research, and then eventually, you can only do so much of that before you dive into it. So
Right. Yeah. Yep. Just gotta jump in sometimes.
got to go for it.
So, is Rise and Swine a full time gig for you now? Do you have all farm job, or somebody else?
We actually both still have off farm jobs. I'm a lineman for an electric company,
Oh, okay.
and my wife works for the state of New York, and we're at the point now where I'm gonna stay doing what I do, and she's gonna come, and we're in the process of putting up a on farm store right now, and then we're gonna end up doing some delivery hubs and points like that. So she's gonna retire, I guess you could say, from the state, and we're gonna she's gonna pursue it farther
Oh, yeah.
on the store side of it. So
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll stick a pin in that retail store. I want to get to that on down in our discussion,
okay.
because that's that in your online sales. I want to talk about that a little bit. But okay, so all farm income. She's probably going to here soon retire and handle the
Yep.
retail side of that. So my goodness, one hard job to another. So lineman, that's not an easy job. So how do
No,
you?
that's almost a two full-time jobs.
Yeah.
You're working 1,000, 1,500 hours of overtime a year on top of the farm, and so that's why we really push to try and make everything as efficient as we can.
Yeah.
And as easy for, like, my uncle's retired, so I can call him and he can come over here and do something real quick with chores, and it's really easy. It's it's really designed to be, our average time in the summertime from start to finish, checking all the animals and making sure everything's good, the pens and the fences and everything else like that. On a normal day in the summertime, it's about 35 or 40 minutes for us.
Yeah.
So it's not a very big burden if I have to have somebody come in and kind of step in for a few days.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, have systems in place and have people that are familiar with
Yeah.
those systems. All
Yep.
right.
Yep. Our water system it's cut about 12 or 15 hours out a week. It's freed up time just for us not having to pump water onto a trailer, haul it back, water the animals. That's a huge, we'd step back at the end of the year last year and we're like, where do we have our most wasted time? And that was right on the top of the list.
Mm.
So we made sure we had a point of, this is how we were going to do it. This is how we designed it. So it's a gravity fed system and it's a gravity drained system. So in the fall time, we can just go back and kick all the drains open, and then in the summer, like in the springtime, we'll go close them up, fill up the tank, and on the property we have about 46 different spigots right now that we can tap into at any time. So I can pretty much cover the entire property 200 feet of hose.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Well, okay. Let's unpack some stuff there, because there's a lot of meat on that bone. So,
yeah.
okay, so gravity fed system. So backing up, you hit on something key, and I think it's something we all need to do, whether we're a huge operation or we're just doing a little bit of sales here and there. But you did an annual assessment, so I assume if you have an off season, at some point you kind of looked and said, okay, let's assess what was good, what was bad last year. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So coming to that, you realize you kind of did a time analysis to say, where are we spending the most time? Where's our biggest inefficiency? Tell me about that process a little bit.
Well, the beef operation really took off last year, so we ended up going from 7 cows to about 30 cows
Oh,
that
wow.
we carried for the summer. So that's obviously a lot of water, and we were watering out of IBC totes on a running gear. We had 3 or 4 of them bolted onto the running gear. We could go back, fill it, and then go back, and it would last for a couple days, for the cows. And you could hit the pigs on the way through and water them and stuff like that. So we just designed a system, and I'm sure there's plenty of other farms that have a similar system, but
Hmm.
we have 4,500 gallons of storage on the highest point of the farm. And we we took a subsoiler for behind like a tractor on a 3-point hitch, and we put like a 2-inch sweep elbow. We welded on the back of it,
Hmm.
and we put the spool of water line on the back of the subsoiler. So you literally can just drive the tractor,
Lay your line.
and it just puts the water line right in. It goes down, you can get it down about 20 inches. But and every so often, we'd have the hole dug from the excavator, and we would just put our spigot, our riser pipe on it, and then we just keep right on going. So we could pull roughly 2,300 feet of water line. You could do it in about 2.5 hours
Yeah.
with the tractor. And in New York, obviously the frost line is much farther than 20 inches, but we also don't rotationally graze in the wintertime up here. We don't have the ability to do that with the forage. So
Right.
we just knew offhand that we were going to have a drained system
Yeah.
for
So
the wintertime and not even plan on trying to do it.
yeah. So you have your livestock in a sacrificial area, shut down the
Yeah.
pastures. Yeah. Yeah. Very very
Yep.
Salatin-esque as well. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so along that point, so you said 4,500 gallons of capacity at the highest point. Where is that fed? Is that rain collection? Are you filling that up in one fell swoop, or is that tied to city lines?
Well, it's actually, yeah, we don't have, I wish we had, well, I wish we don't have city water, but it comes out of our well, and
Okay.
then we also have a spring-fed pond right above where our pump is.
Yeah.
So even if the well ran dry, which we've never had it run dry, we can actually pump it uphill out of that pond. Also, it's tagged in both ways. So from the highest point on the farm down to the lowest, it's a little over 240 feet elevation difference. So we get pretty good pressure on the lowest points. We're I never actually put a gauge on it, but I mean, when crack the valve open, it shoots 60 feet out of the valve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
more than enough to run an automatic tank float.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think Salatin. Last time I talked to him about this, I think he was getting 80 psi
yeah.
from his gravity fed. That's incredible. So, have you penciled out the ROI on that yet? I mean, have you really done an assessment yet of not only the time, but you had some money invested, obviously, in putting this in. But have you
Yeah.
put dollar amounts to that yet?
Yeah, the entire system. So all of our lines, fittings, our spigots, the tanks, both tanks we found used. So one was actually free, and the other one we just picked up last week was $400 for a 2,000 gallon tank.
Wow.
And so the total investment out of pocket was right around like $1,800.
Hmm.
And like I said, the subsoiler, we can use it for other things on the farm if we have to, but we kind of built it specifically to pull water line in. And then like you said, we just have a little bit of electric for running the pump, and everything is on automatic float. So when the tank up on top of the hill gets low, the tank on the bottom, the pump turns on and fills up the tank, and everybody's happy. So
Yeah, I mean, what a game changer. That's
yeah.
that's utilizing the technology, the automation, a little front end cash, of course. And my goodness, that minor investment is paid dividends already in the first year. It's not like you're going to have to wait for that to to really show up 4 or 5 years down
Yeah.
the road.
Oh yeah, because if you figure, I mean, you figure 15 hours a week, say, and you're gonna pay yourself, say you paid yourself $30 an hour, that's $450 a week right there in time.
Yeah.
And then you're not even considering, using the tractor multiple times a week. You got excess use on the tractor, and if you can get a system like that, and it's really easy because when we move the cows, we only have a little 30-gallon water trough with it, tank float right on it. So you can literally you just flip the tank over, clean it, and move it, and anybody can do it. My 8-year-old daughter can go back and drag the water tank and move the cows on her own practically. It's a very easy to use system, and it's very low maintenance, and that's really the center of what we're trying to build.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. Not only time saver, but massive infrastructure upgrade. Just increases value across the board. Good job.
Yeah.
So let's talk specifically about your pigs then. Do you focus on a specific breed?
We always used to buy our piglets, and then it got around here, it was really hard to find like decent quality piglets. So we actually ended up bringing on we ended up buying some gilts, and we originally brought on Ips as, it was more like a grazing pig instead of a rooting pig. And hopefully we were going to kind of bring them on and kind of run with the cows almost at the same time afterwards.
Yeah.
And they do a good job. They're a little bit longer grow out time than what I really like, being that we have a limited, grow out season in New York to be out on the pasture. So we actually ended up bringing on Berkshires. So we have some Berkshire sows now, and we actually have a purebred Berkshire boar. And the boar will breed, he'll breed to the Ips. We get some really nice crosses out of those, and they grow a little bit faster, a little bit bigger than your standard bred Ip.
Yeah.
But we're kind of really, really kind of impressed with the Berkshires, and actually, probably 3 hours ago, I just had one farrow, and she had 12 in the litter. So, and it's 25 degrees and raining here in New York right now.
Oh wow, yeah.
So they're very good, and we're pretty impressed with them, and we're just going to keep, updating it if we need to, and then, just hopefully we can kind of get pigs that are really fit into the system that we want. We're not trying to redesign the wheel here and make something work that doesn't want to be here and doesn't want to do what we need it to do.
So what is your finishing window there in New York? So you're saying with the IPS you're getting a little bit longer finish that you didn't like. What are you shooting for, and what are you getting?
Well, the Ips are like usually 10 to 12 months, we noticed, to get them up to like about where I wanted like to see them go. And the Berkshires, we can get the same thing in about 8 months.
Yeah.
So I like to have we have a large group that we run for the summertime, and I like to see those gone back in the processor by mid-November at the latest, because the last couple of years we've been getting some pretty good snow in November. So we like to have that large group gone, and then they'll start farrowing. Well, they just farrowed here today, so the end of January, beginning of February, we like to see them farrow, and then that gives us our time out till the end of the year for the next group to go in October.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, so explain your farrowing situation here a little bit. How do you have that set up?
Actually, right now, because of the weather that we've had, I've got these 4 that we have farrowing now. They're actually up in a large run-in lean-to on a barn, so they have about a 30 by 40 area where they're at right now, and they do perfectly fine in there. Most of the time, the boar we actually left him in the last time, and he was perfectly fine. But this time now, we got enough sows that he's broke out. He's in with another group of sows right now. So
boar will be a boar.
It's living the dream, I guess you could say.
Right.
So it's been an experience just getting into the farrowing part of it. We went to Jordan's down there at J&L Green Farm, and we really learned a lot before we got really dove into this whole farrowing thing. So we'll farrow now in February, and then we're going to farrow again in the summertime, and then those ones will be out in pasture on the woods,
Yeah. So in that,
those will be our spring piglets that we carry through the winter. They go to the processing right around May. So.
Yeah. So the sows that are farrowing right now in your lean-to, is that an enclosed? Do you have them separated in their own stalls, or are they just kind of hanging out all
No,
together?
it's a big open, pretty much like a big open common area, and they're all in there, and they're actually two pairs of sisters.
Yeah,
So they actually, the last time that we had this, they actually like co-parented like incredible.
yeah.
They were, it actually worked out really good. The piglets did really good like that, and we had no issues of, you know, piglets, dying or getting, eaten by other sows, and it worked out very well. So
Oh, very good.
it's been a good thing.
Do you have a common creep area for them with a heat light, or you just rely on the sows
Actually,
to?
what we do, what we found that really kind of works the best up here is actually we take an IBC tote and we put a heat lamp inside the IBC tote, and then we cut just a little door in it, maybe 10 inches tall, so just the piglets can get in there and away from the sows if they feel like they have to.
Yeah, what a
So
great idea.
it stays a little bit warmer in there. We don't put any hay in there or anything else like that. It's strictly just an IBC tote with the plastic. So
Hmm.
if something ever did happen, the threat of a fire is very low compared to, having it stuffed full of hay.
Right. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
asking for trouble. But
There's
they honestly, they don't really go in there. They hang by the sows, and the barn is all completely wind protected, so they're usually pretty happy.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's a good setup. I like that IBC tote idea. That's pretty
Yeah,
clever.
it's somebody else's idea, I'm sure, but we stole it. So
Yeah, there you go. There's nothing new anymore, they say.
yeah.
All right, you'd mentioned a little
So
bit, but let's talk a little bit of detail with your rotational pasture process with the pigs. You talked about you finished them up on the hill on the apple orchard. Do you have adjustable size paddocks, or have you made your pasture areas pretty much the same size, and you got fixed fencing there?
yeah, well, so our pastures where we run the pigs, it has a perimeter fence around it, and then we subdivide it fitting to the size of pigs that we have in it. So in a normal day, there's whatever 30 pigs in a group, who you seem to like that number, and they're moving every 5 to 10 days, depending on the amount of forage that they're going into
Hmm.
and what part of the woods that they're going into. So they are moving. A lot of times we'll just run the single wire around, you know,
Yeah.
and then there's some spots up there where it's a little brushier, and that's a lot easier to put up. And then there's spots in the apple orchard where it's all been cleaned out from the previous ones, and we actually use that quick fence from Premier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we ended up, we'll do a 100 by 100 paddock for the 30 pigs, and then we have one of the solar fencers right from Premier, and we've had good luck with them. And like I said, we haven't had any breakouts, so knock on wood.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
They
great.
we have a training area, I guess you could call it. So when we pull the pigs from getting the piglets from weaning, we put them into this training area, and it's a hard cattle panel fence, and then we put the hot wire, we electric fence train them right in there.
Hmm.
So they go in there, and even if they get out, you know what I mean, they're just on the other side of the wire. We can
Right.
just put them back in, and 2 or 3 days, they're good to go, and then they go out back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They seem to pick up on that pretty quickly.
yeah, and you get a nice hot fencer, they respect it pretty fast.
Yeah.
So
So another point there I want to look at. So you were talking about wow, totally derailed my train of thought there. It jumped the tracks big time. Oh yeah, so feed. So while you've got them in your pasture paddocks, are you doing free choice? Are you rationing daily? How are you approaching feed?
we actually have so we have like a 12 bin feeder that holds 2,000 pounds of grain. So we run that through with the pig pellets in it, and then if it's pretty much free choice, with the sows, we'll ration when they're back in pasture.
Hmm.
They get fed daily, and then the boar, he's obviously fed daily too. But our feeder pigs, we give free choice to it, but we like keeping them moving. So you know, we like to finish right around 700 to 800 pounds of grain going through a pig is
Hmm.
what we figure. We sit down and crunch the numbers at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's about the average of what we can run them through on pasture. When they got extra forage, they got apples, they got all kinds of stuff to go through. So it definitely cuts down on the feed cost running them on pasture like that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, like you said, as long as there's good forage, and especially in the
yep.
fall, we have that benefit in our forest.
Yeah.
In the fall, you've got a lot. This year we had a ton of mast. It's just acorns acorns and hickory
Yeah.
nuts more than you can handle. So,
I would love to have a bunch of oak trees up here
no, my
just to
goodness.
finish them on, but we got the apples, so we kind of utilize what we got for now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. Adapt to what your land gives you. I don't have any
yeah.
apples, but I got more white oak trees than I could ever shake a stick at. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Nice.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's transition to your retail side and your marketing. You had mentioned that working on an on farm store, and I think that's new for 2020, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna start that in a couple months up here. We're just going through the permitting and getting the electrical company on board with what we want to do and things like that. We've looked
You don't have
for a
any pull with
while.
that?
What's that?
I said you don't have any pull with that electric company.
Oh, no, it's a different company. I have solar panels here actually, so everybody gives me a hard time.
Oh man, yeah,
Just because I work for the electric company doesn't mean I need to pay them every month.
that's right. That's like a school teacher homeschooling their kids.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, we're in the process. We've looked at multiple places close to town, in town, for renting and stuff like that. But dollars and cents wise, it just doesn't make sense right now for us to dive into a inexpensive lease, for a storefront. So
Yeah,
for what we can spend on 1 year of renting a storefront, we could put pretty much the entire building up, buy the walk-in cooler and a walk-in freezer, and set our entire thing up right here. And then we can work it out of here for the deliveries and the website orders and everything come in right here. We could break it down, repackage it, get the orders filled, and then they would be ready for delivery after that point. So
yeah, and that's key, and that's something. Put my marketing hat on for a second. That's something that I think people need to take note of. What you're doing, Greg, was saying, okay, we're going to bring all this to the farm, and now we're going to expect people to come to us. But you've underscored that already with your farm tours and just making the farm already hospitable for traffic. So it turns it into a destination location. So instead of an impulse buy or a straight retail buy, people are looking at a destination to come to because they have a specific plan in mind. They want to come buy your product, and then investing all that time and effort into that to say, here's the one-stop shop. You can come see the facility, you can buy all of our product, you can communicate with us, whatever other value-added product you have there in the store. It's something I think a lot of us overlook and think, well, there's no way in the world somebody's going to drive out here. But if you really focus on that destination location, that's going to get people's attention.
Yeah, and the big thing that we're really kind of pushing is that, and I'm sure it goes on pretty much everywhere, but there's a lot of um, other stores very similar to that portray that they raise what they're selling,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them, when you actually sit down, you obviously don't tell them that you have your own farm and you're doing your own store, but like when you go in and you talk to some of these places, they actually are buying just regular beef wholesale, getting it repackaged and just reselling it with their label on it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I guess, false marketing of what really is out there, and the consumer really, you got to really build that relationship with the consumer and say, hey, these actually are our cows. These are actually our pigs, our chickens. We've raised these things from day one all the way out. You're really getting what you see here. You're not. There's a lot of that happens around here, and it's like the perfect social media farm.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually go there, it's nothing like what you said it
Right.
is. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
It's like, oh man, this is like all smoke and mirrors, but it looks good on the computer.
Right. Yeah.
So
The old digital representation. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really what we're pushing. We're pushing for really completely local to the town of Holland, as close as we can get products. There's a lady that has some property behind us that we're going to carry her honey and lip balms and stuff like that. And, if there's other vendors, if there's a small organic vegetable farm that does a CSA, we could offer that through the farm store as a central pickup point.
Yeah.
And then, or deliver, they could even piggyback onto our delivery. If they have the same customer that we're getting stuff from, if we're going to the same area, we could just piggyback deliveries and really kind of consolidate, make things a little bit more efficient for everybody.
Yeah, and those partnerships, those connections can really go a long way. And I love what you're doing there. If I could underline that again, just as people that are listening to this and saying, hey, how do I do that with my farm? Then reaching out to neighbors if you're in an ag community and just seeing what you can do to, again, underscore that destination location, get to where, we're not saying you're ever going to be the Walmart of grass-fed food, but get to where people can say, I can really come here and I could spend an afternoon just checking this place out, buying, talking, discuss, all those type of things. It really pays dividends in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, really, the thing that really started driving this was the farm tours.
Yeah,
we started offering farm tours like 3 years ago, and it's just incredible the amount that you get out of that. You actually like get to build a relationship with the customer. I mean, they're not your customer yet at that point, but they get to see you on your farm interacting with the animals. You get to explain to them how the animals are raised and how they're processed, and just the whole start to finish procedure. And they really buy into the trust that you built with them. 'Cause
right.
Just letting people in onto your farm is a huge thing. There's some guys that don't do it at all, and then there's guys that they have an open door policy 24/7.
Yeah.
So we like to think we're like in the middle there, where we have scheduled tours where we can educate the customer and the consumer that's coming out. And a couple of years ago I went and talked at a school, and you really get to see how much kids nowadays really don't know about farming. Like it's almost shocking.
Right. Yeah.
They just don't know, and they don't know where their food comes from. They think it comes from the store. But that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a whole lot more to it. So
yeah, there's a huge educational element to it there, and it's a good opportunity to take that head on and really address so many things. The quality of the food, where it comes from, what it actually looks like, the processes that go into it. But you'd mentioned getting people on farm. That's a key touch point with a potential customer. So if you got data capture opportunities in place, you're doing samples, doing whatever the case may be. And then you see the value added.
Yeah, we always have, we have bacon for samples, and we do, like little cheeseburger sliders or something like that. And it's not a huge cost to it, but they get to actually like try what you have, and that's just a huge thing to build a relationship with them.
Well, and again, that's something, and the thing that pops in my mind is Salatin's on-farm store. And again, he's obviously got a pretty good following, but even the value-added products, you go in and you're going to buy some of his pasture-raised product, but you look around, there's books, there's shirts, there's coffee mugs, there's things, because he's made it a destination location. You come in and say, oh, I want this swag, and maybe for the typical pastured pig farmer, it's not going to be books and T-shirts. It could be just accessories to say, hey, here's a recipe book on this, or here's some additional seasoning that you can buy if you're going to smoke your pork chop. Whatever the case may be, just some of that value added that at that point is just a retail exchange. It really can add a lot of money to your endeavor there.
Oh yeah, and you notice a big difference too in going from, when we first originally started, it was wholes and halves, maybe a quarter cow or whatever. But now, you got to step up to the plate, and you got to spend money to get it, USDA process for individual cuts. There's people that are going to only buy certain things every time, and you got to have the USDA. We don't live in an area where there's a lot of that around. We're traveling 2 hours to a USDA processor, but I actually have the processor that does our wholes and halves is literally 5 minutes down the road from me. So it's very convenient for me to take them for that, but it's also not convenient for the customer to have to buy 120 pounds of pork at a time.
Oh yeah.
And the realistic, the business side of it is you are going to make a little bit more money selling cuts. You're not selling the wholesale amounts like that. You're going to make a little bit more money on it, but it is a convenience factor too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance there. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Greg. Well, what are you looking ahead? So we know 2020 is going to be the farm store. If you look ahead 5 years, what's your 5-year plan? What do you see change or growth in that area?
Well, 5 years, I'd like to see the perimeter fence completely finished. You keep adding a little at a time as we go, clear it out and, you just slowly plug along and try and get the perimeter fence, you'll be able to sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that even if they do get out, they're not really going anywhere,
Right. Yeah.
But, with the lease on the land, we'd like to have either a long-term lease or possibly work out a purchase for it. We have a 10-year lease on it right now, and we're in the third year.
Hmm.
So in the next 7 years, we're gonna have to either sit down again and, renegotiate the lease out farther, or, maybe come up with a purchase opportunity for it, or, maybe another option that's, they can come up with something different. So,
Yeah.
but at that point, 5 or 10 years down the road, the kids are going to be quite a bit older. She's going to be 18. Maybe she'll stick around. Maybe she won't. You don't really know at that point, but you got to give them the opportunity to do what they want to do too. So you can't have them tied down. This is not, it's not like this is what you're going to do as farm. They might choose a different path, and you got to be prepared, in the business sense of things, to not have grown so big that you have to rely on that, or you have to bring on employees,
Right. Yeah. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, we try real hard. It's just us right now, so we're trying real hard not to put that off as long as we have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But
yeah, good deal.
Hopefully the breeding program keeps up the way it's going, and things keep improving, and the quality of the land keeps growing better and better. And we're just the rotation thing with the cows it's just crazy how much that improves. And we've never spread seed in the pastures, and you go out and you look and you just see all these different varieties, and it's like, man, we didn't put any seed in the ground, and it's all come up on its own.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a good thing to see.
Well, Greg, one question I close out with everyone is what is your best experience or favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
I like seeing, the farrowing is pretty neat, but probably the best story I have is when our first 2 pigs that we had, we were rushing to get a fence. We had no idea what we were doing, and we were putting up a chain link fence just to try and keep them in.
Right.
And sure enough, you let 2 little piglets in there, and they ran right through the single wire electric fence and right through the fence. And I still remember standing there by the pig pen and watching the piglets run across the front yard. Then you see the dog running after the piglets, and then you see the wife running after the dog.
Yeah.
But we ended up, I ended up catching them and putting them back in. But it's like, wow, that took about 13 minutes for those things to get out.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, well, I have no clue what I'm doing right now, but it's a very humbling experience. And then, we get a lot of guys that come here that are interested in starting to raise pigs. So I like tell them, say, hey, this is what you really don't want to do to start. Like, you try and give them the best head start that you can give them to make it enjoyable, so they'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
Getting younger people involved in it is, it's a good thing. I like seeing that. So
good deal. All right. Well, if people want to find out more about Rising Swine Farm, how can they find you online?
We got a Facebook page. Pretty much everybody's got one of those. It's at Rising Swine Farms. And then we have, it's on Instagram. It links over. And then we have the website, RisingSwineFarms.com. So that's where we have the online store on there, and everything about the farm is on the website also.
All right, yeah, and I have to confess, when I first saw your information come through on the form, I looked at your URL and I'm like, Risen Swine. I thought there's a spiritual message behind here somewhere.
yeah. The bacon is pretty godly, but
right, exactly.
We'll you got to keep the apostrophes in there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll put all that down in our show notes, of course, and you all can link to that and check out what Greg's got going on. Well, Greg, man, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
Yep. Thanks, Troy. It's been a good time.
All right, man. Have a good evening. Well, I hope everyone appreciated that discussion with Greg. I appreciate him taking the time to come on the podcast and talk with us. If you know anyone that you'd like to hear on the podcast, just go to the website, redtoolhouse.com/pasturedpig podcast. use that form there and make any recommendations, or obviously you can find us on Facebook, make some comments that direction. I'd like to get into some more topics specifically. We've got some good ones coming up, but I'll also would like to hear your all's input on what we need to discuss in the future. All right, well, I pray everyone has a great week out in the pasture. Take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.